Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this Sunday. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. It's like talking into the void. It's so weird. It's so nice
Да,
to
Наташа, слышно.
be somewhere together, right, in person. But barring that, we get to hang out here in the Zoom room. Which is also pretty cool that we can connect all over the world and be able to have classes and chat with each other and get to know each other. Okay. So let's take a moment to bring ourselves totally here from whatever we were doing before. Recall why you're here. And what you want to do with these teachings. And know, know that we're taking shelter in these teachings. This is the ultimate shelter. In seeds and emptiness. So we can create a beautiful world for every being in it. Because we understand how to do that. And so with that, we will jump into the second part of ACI 18, review of class 13 on clear thinking. All right. You see the right screen? Yes. I'm just doing it the same old way. So good. Thank you, both Gina and Kadrin, for letting me know. So this very heady subject that we use to figure out how the world is working and what we're doing wrong and how to do it differently has several different labels. We call it clear thinking. That's the word that Geshe is using these days. Logic, pramana, sema. So all of these words. And it's about weighing what is truth and what is not truth. So what hat are we wearing? Well, before we get to that, again, to show you the text. And these are all hand carved. It is so amazing. And that's about the size usually they are. Sometimes they're a little bigger. So we're wearing the hat, which is a question I asked before I showed you the Pecha pages, of the Sautantrika philosophical school of Buddhism. Sautantrika, or we call it the logic school. Makes perfect logic, right? So in this school, the definition of ultimate reality is anything you can confirm directly with your senses. And again, we said Master Dharmakirti, he was writing a commentary. He wrote a commentary on Master Dignaga's original work about logic. So in the highest school, we don't say that things exist because we can see them, right? We say that they're established through a name and a term. We can say merely labeled. We think about them in a certain way and we label them in a certain way. So dependent origination, according to the highest school, which is the Madhyamika Prasangika school of Tibetan Buddhism, this is the only existence that things have. Through thinking about them in a certain way and labeling. Say Mingde, Shaksam. Mingde, Shaksam. So we're going to get back into Chi Chedrak again. Quality and characteristics. So think about what is the relationship between quality, quote, quality or qualityness, right? And the term quality, right? Qualityness is a mental image. So quality, quote, and its relationship with a quality and the quality. In your reading, I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but there's all these what we call syllogisms. They're debates between two monks. For me, they're hard to understand. Don't try and read your reading like you would a book. Choose one and think about it. So don't try and read it like a book, like a novel, but just choose one and try and figure out what the two different sides are saying. And make sure that you read the middle part. the middle section of each reading describes the correct viewpoint, okay, which is helpful. But you want to figure out, how did they get to this correct viewpoint? That's what debate is all about. It's not about who wins, who loses, who's right, who's wrong. It's about getting down to what is the ultimate way of perceiving something. So let's talk about the relationship between things. How do car and Chevy relate? There are two types of relationships between two different objects. The first one is this dachiki drelwa. And this is the relationship of identity. So what does that mean, right? And if you're interested, where's my cursor here? Dak means self or I, me. Cheek means one. Gi is of, and drelwa is identity. So to be one thing, the relationship here is to be one thing is to be the other thing. For example, a changing thing is a made thing. To be a made thing is to be a changing thing. To be a changing thing is a made thing. They have this relationship of identity, which automatically makes them the other thing. It's a two-way relationship. Changing thing, made thing is a changing thing. Okay? So how do we know something is what it is? Here we have this bumpa, or a water pitcher. And dokpa means opposite. Opposite of all that it is not. So another would be my car in a parking lot. How do I go and find my car in a parking lot? I have to get rid of all the other cars in the parking lot to find mine. That's not my car. That's not my car. That's not my car. And you know, sometimes when you park in a parking lot and you go in the store for a long time, you come out and you forget where you parked your car. It's exactly what you have to do. First, you think about what color is your car? Like mine is silver. So I get rid of all the cars that aren't silver, right? And then maybe it's the shape of the car. So it's a car and the exclusion of all that it is not. So here I am with my mom, like 10 years ago, just out of retreat, just out of my 3-year retreat. And there's this relationship that I am my mother's daughter, right? But my mother is not my daughter. So it's a one-way relationship, right? Or Veronica is Geshe Michael's wife. We can't say Geshe Michael is Veronica's wife, or we don't say that, right? So this is a relationship between a quality and a characteristic. We can say it's between car and Chevy. To be a Chevy is to be a car. Okay? That goes one direction. Are all cars Chevys? No. So this is only a one-way relationship. And it means that it only goes one direction. Right? Whereas back here, the relationship of identity, what we're talking about is to be one thing is automatically to be the other thing. So in this instance, automatically Chevy is a car. Automatically Gyelse is Shira's daughter. Right? But it doesn't work the other direction. So the test for whether a relationship of identity exists is if you remove one object, the other will also disappear. My mother has passed, right? Am I still my mother's daughter? Yeah. If I leave, if there is no more daughter left, then is she still my mother? No, because I'm not there anymore. She was my mother. Right? So think about it with the Chevy, right? If we remove Chevy, are there still cars? If we remove cars, are there Chevys? No. If we remove the general car, right? That quality, that quality car, then there are no other cars. So you can test for this relationship of identity. If you remove one object, if the other will also disappear. So Chevrolet shares an identity with car, but car, if you take the Chevrolet away, there's still car. It doesn't share an identity with Chevrolet. If you remove all Chevrolets, all cars don't necessarily disappear. Right? So this is a one-way relationship, not two ways, like made thing and changing thing. So a relationship of identity can work this way, where they share a relationship of going either way, or it can just be a one-way relationship. So this is one example. I guess I should see if there's any questions about that, because it's hard to put your mind around it. There's a two-way relationship. To be the one thing is to be the other thing. To be one thing is to be the other thing. Then there's a one-way relationship, like Chevy and cars. which is to be a Chevy is to be a car. So there's a one-way relationship. But to be a car doesn't necessarily have to be a Chevy. It could be a Toyota, it could be a Subaru, it could be a Lada, it could be whatever it is, right? So that's two ways to think about a relationship of identity. The second kind of relationship is cause and effect relationship. The relationship of something coming from something else, right? And this is how we think about things most of the time. There's a seed, and from the seed comes a plant, right? A thing, a plant, or a sprout, and its cause, the seed. Cause and effect. That can only be a one-way relationship. We use the seed. Traditionally, classic example is, and I believe this is on your homework, is a working thing in the moment after it and the original working thing. So the working thing, let's say a water pitcher, in the next moment of the water pitcher. That original moment of water pitcher is the cause for the next moment of water pitcher. If there weren't a first moment of water pitcher, there couldn't be a second moment of water pitcher. And if there weren't a second moment of water pitcher, there couldn't be a third moment of water pitcher. Right? So in the case of a sprout, is the seed still there when the sprout occurs? Is it a seed anymore? No, it's a sprout. So what is this relationship is what Madhyamika Prasangika would say. It's like, yeah, it makes sense that the seed, we produces the sprout. But when the sprout occurs, there is no more seed. And there's no sprout there when there's a seed. So what is their relationship? Think about it. Cook it. According to Madhyamika Prasangika, in terms of naming and identifying a cause as a cause, you must have the result as well. The result, let's take a karmic ripening in your life. Somebody's yelling at you. You look at that result and you say, oh, we create the cause. Oh, I must have yelled at somebody in the past because this is the result I'm getting. The cause has to create the result, but for it to be called a cause, you have to have a result. You can't have a result without a cause, and you can't have a cause without a result. They share this relationship. So they would get fancy and consider cause and effect to be a two-way relationship. If there's no result, there's no cause. If there's no cause, there's no result, right? So the result depends on the cause. But the cause, in order to be a cause, also depends on the result. Who is making that relationship? And this isn't just playing with words. It's trying to get to how we are creating our suffering, how we think things exist or don't exist. So there are only three possibilities for every pair of objects in the universe. They will either be in a relationship of identity or a relationship of cause and effect, or not in any relationship at all, right? There's only three ways. So three things have to be true. Right? For the two-way, A has to equal B, and B has to equal A. Make sense? They go both directions. For the one-way, A equals B, but B does not equal A. Here we can say A is Chevy and B is car. To be a Chevy is to be a car. To be a car is to be a Chevy? No, right? Not. To be a working thing and a changing thing, and to be a changing thing and a working thing is two-way. So for the first one, they say technically it has to be the same substance. And they have to be conceptually distinct for the one-way. So if you remove one, or no, I guess for the two-way, sorry. If you remove one, you remove the other. That's the one-way, sorry. So there's, yes, this, I get confused too, obviously. It's complicated stuff. So for the first one, they have to be the same substance, the two-way, because they go both directions. One-way, they have, you perceive them differently, right? They're conceptually distinct from each other. So that if we remove car, I need to get a little car for this, then we don't have Chevrolet. We do have Chevrolet, and we can say it's a car. So we talked about this classical example. About, we're just going over this again and again. You can't say that the original working thing shares a relationship with the working thing a moment after. Because at the time that the original working thing exists, I mean, we just proved that you had to have the original thing to have the next moment, right? But at the time that the original water pitcher existed, the future thing doesn't exist and never did exist, right? It has not existed yet. So how is that different than cause and effect? I'll say it again. You can't say the original working thing shares a relationship with the working thing a moment after it. Because at that time, in the present moment, where this original working thing exists, the future working thing, the future Boomba, does not yet exist. And it's never existed, the future one, because it's in the future. So a working relationship is either the same thing or the thing and its cause. The logic school considers cause and effect to be a one-way relationship. Cause and effect, according to the Madhyamika Prasangika, says that there is never a moment when the cause and exist together at the same time. And this is one of the proofs for the fact of emptiness. So it's impossible to have a cause bring about a result independent of your projections forced on you by your past karma. You know, where does the seed become the sprout? Can you find that exact spot? I'm a gardener, and it was like, this was really hard for me. You know, I'm picturing having a seed in a plastic cup, and the seed is there, like the little picture, and seeing the sprout come out. And it's like, what are you talking about? There's a seed and there's a sprout. Get your magnifying glass out. Oh, right. Where's the seed and where's the sprout? Well, it looks like there's still a seed there. It hasn't totally gone away yet. So what's the sprout inside the seed? If you open the seed, do you find a sprout? Think about it. Think about it. So there is never an instant when the seed became the sprout for the tree, self-existent, or for the flower, or for whatever it is. Similarly, when the last moment of your mind in the intermediate state between death and rebirth flops over into the first moment of your mind in the womb, there is never a self-existent point in time when the previous mind caused the latter moment of mind. This is evidence that there is no external reality out here. These things are merely coming from our mind. So, for example, all of us who are not blind have the experience of the sun coming up every morning. That too is a collective projection. We all share that projection together. And according to Madhyamika Prasangika, the sun coming up, your rebirth, the tree coming from a sprout are all projections of your mind. They have no self-existent reality whatsoever. Don't just believe my words being passed down to you from Geshe Michael, from Ken Rinpoche, from Lord Buddha, right? Think about it. Do the logic. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. So this non-self-existent reality is all coming from the seeds that each of us have planted in how we have taken care of others, or of how we haven't taken care of others in the past. It functions quite well, doesn't it? It functions quite well for us to have a class here today. So it's incorrect to say that these things like the sun and the tree and my rebirth are not real, because they are only projections. They are real because they are your projections. When you die of cancer or something else, it will be real because your mind is projecting it as real. All right, let's take a big breath. Where are we? We are smack in the middle of Riklam, the path of reasoning. Rik is another word for logic or reasoning, clear thinking. So remember what Gyelse Sep said. You know, Gyelse Sep was the most important disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa. And he said, it's not Tantra. You know, that wasn't the kindest thing that Tsongkhapa taught me. It wasn't the Lam Rim. That's not the kindest thing that he taught me, or anything else. The kindest thing he taught me was how to think. And this path of reasoning, it's how we reason, right? That's what it means, a path of reasoning. And it has 3 parts, typically. And this is where we get into these, what we call syllogisms. So we start with a logical statement. We have the subject. Chu Chen means let's consider this, ... right? So let's consider emptiness. So the person putting out the question says, all right, this is what we're going to talk about. Okay, you agree? You understand emptiness? You understand the word? You know what we're going to talk about? Yeah, okay. So let's consider emptiness. Then you make an assertion. Something about it, a quality about it. And then you give the reason. Because. So you say, let's consider emptiness. It exists because tigers have black stripes. It's just an example. So the quality, the zhugzhe, the assertion or the quality, it's a quality of the thing that you're trying to prove. So we could say here, consider a Boomba. It's a working thing. Consider this water pot. It's a working thing. And quite honestly, it doesn't have, the connection doesn't even have to exist like tiger stripes, right? You just have to prove it. You just have to prove it. So you and your opponent, your co-debater, that you're trying to get to the heart of something. So you don't take the easy things when you debate. You take the things that you don't understand. And your debate partner helps you both to understand it more deeply. So don't let your ego get in the way, you know, that you have to be a good debater or you don't want to be embarrassed yourself. This is the most precious thing, to be able to understand and get to the heart of how you're thinking and how you think things to exist. So both you and your debate partner have to agree on the subject, and you have to agree on this assertion or this quality. Right? Here, the subject is the Boomba. Is it a working thing? Do you agree with me that it's a working thing? If you both agree, then you can go on to the third step. The talk, the reason. And it can include anything you want to say as a reason. As you saw, I said, consider emptiness. What did I say? It exists because tigers have black stripes. You can give any reason you want to give. But here, we're going to say because it performs a function. Now, your debate partner understands all this, and they may say, that doesn't make sense. And then you have to, and that's where you start the debate. The debate partner's job is to counteract what you have said. So you can agree or disagree or say that it doesn't make any sense. And there's a whole format to that. We're not going to get into that today. Ben Kramer is a great person to learn debate from. So consider me. That's the subject. Consider Gyelse. I should study and practice more. Why? Because I am going to die tonight. Do I know if I'm going to die tonight? No, I don't. But it's going to happen at some point. I am going to lose this body. It could be tonight. So me as the subject, to practice more seriously is the assertion. That's what I should do. And going to die tonight, either sooner or later, is the reason. Does the opponent know what me is? They do, right? Do they understand what it is to study and practice more? Probably. Okay. Do they know that I'm going to die tonight? Or at some point? Probably they know that. So do the three relationships hold? What are those? I think we've got it here. Yep. So the purpose of logic, right, is to question these things, to figure out what to do and what not to do, what is true and what is not true. So, me as a subject, practice more seriously is the assertion. I may die tonight. That is the reason. So 1 and 3, me going to die tonight. Is there a relationship there? Is it true that we can put may in there, that we may die tonight? Yeah. So 1 and 3 hold. Okay. If I am going to die tonight, should I practice more seriously? Why would I want to do that? Because I want to have that on my mind when I die. I want to have my mind filled with Dharma, not with thinking about how cold it is in the room or how hungry I am or something like that. So if I'm going to die tonight, should I practice more seriously? Does that hold? Yeah. If I'm not going to die tonight, or if I don't practice seriously, am I going to die tonight? I could still die tonight, but I'd like to turn it around. If 3, not 2, if I'm not going to die tonight, should I practice more seriously? This is the essence of the death meditation. While you're still in bed every morning, you can think to yourself, if I were going to die today, what should I do? Maybe it would be to go out and do the things that you've wanted to do all your life. Maybe it would be to study logic. Maybe it would be to go serve somebody. If you're going to die today, what is the highest thing you can do? So this reality out here, right? This projection that is all coming from our mind. Is there are this reality, right? There are three different kinds of realities. There's the Nungyur, which is obvious reality. Things we can see, things we can touch, things we can hear, things we can taste. Most of our reality comes in through our eyes. All of our reality comes in through our senses, projected from our seeds planted in the past. And we're talking obvious reality here, okay? That one's easy. But there are two kinds of reality that are a little more difficult, and we have problems with them. So let's go back to the first reality. I'd like you to say the Tibetan word. Say Nungyur. Nungyur. The second one, hidden reality. Say Kokyur. Kokyur. And then really hidden reality is Shintu Kokyur. Shintu Kokyur. So, like, there are things we can't see. Like, what am I looking at right now? Like, there's stains on my table. You can't see them, but there are stains on my table. Or there's bumps on my wall. Why are they there? Right? There's some seed that I planted in the past to have stains on my table and bumps on my walls, right? This is something very heavy. This is Shinto Kokyu, the cause for that, the seed for that. And only an omniscient being can perceive them because they know everything, past, present, and future. Right? So we're talking here that only an enlightened being can see the subtle workings of karma and its consequences, can see what I did to have a stain on my table. Okay? Something that is hidden, but is not super hidden, really hidden, Shintu Kokyu, is emptiness. We can have the direct perception of emptiness. So an Arya can see emptiness directly. So these three levels of reality are going on at the same time, depending on who is projecting and perceiving. Okay? An enlightened being can see all of them. An Arya can see Kokyur and Nungyur. A Sosokewo, a Chiba like me, a child, one who has not seen emptiness directly, can only see Nungyur, obvious reality. So to believe that you should practice like your hair is on fire, that was our assertion. If I'm going to die tonight, I better get it together and practice and study the Jubsha. The reason we can't do that is because we can't see the truth that we're going to die tonight. We don't believe it. And so we just go on with our day as usual, and we get irritated with somebody. We want this, we want that. And this is a spiritual obstacle. It is something that is going to happen, and we don't believe it. I have a dear friend who, about a year ago, found out she had liver cancer. She had surgery. It appeared that they had gotten all of the cancer out. And now, a year later, the cancer is there. She maybe has a year. And first time was a 50% chance of maybe 5 years. And the difference between her knowing that her death is imminent and mine going, yeah, it's going to happen sometime, is the difference in knowing. So to prove things to ourselves that our normal mind doesn't want to look at, we use logic. Where do we do it? In our meditations and on the debate ground, over and over and over again. So find a debate partner. Even discuss these things you don't understand, and also look into your own heart with logic at the things you don't want to look at, the things that you've kept hidden from even yourself. How do they exist? Are they self-existent? Can they be purified? So come up with the truth, prove it to yourself, and then you can't deny it. These things that we don't want to admit to ourselves, they keep us from reaching our goal. As long as we keep them hidden, they are like blinders. They make our vision, our pure vision, fuzzy. This is why going into retreat is such a valuable thing. We get into retreat and all of a sudden we see things that we don't like. We hear things like what our mind is saying to us that we don't like. And we think, oh my gosh, this is happening because I'm meditating. It is, in a way, you're meditating, and for the first time, you're getting quiet enough to hear the garbage inside you. Right? So is that garbage self-existent? No, it's just like the garbage in your kitchen. You put it in there, now you got to take it out. Now you got to get rid of it, right? And that's the work of logic. That's the work of taking the microscope and looking at things. So don't stay on the fence. Don't have lazy doubt about these things. And if you don't have lazy doubt and you use your logic, then you will have realizations. Also, it can be scary, and so have somebody you trust that you can talk to about things that are scary for you. We all need to have a guide, someone to hold our hand and help us on this path. So that's one reason to use logic. The second thing is to establish what you do know and what you don't know. We want to open our wisdom eye to things like, I'm going to die tonight, right? So how much do you know and how much don't you know? I'm one of those people, I hope it's gotten less, that goes, yeah, I know. I understand that. Do I really? Question that. Especially about how much you don't know about what other people are thinking when they do something. What did Lord Buddha say? If you are not someone like me, do not judge another, for you shall surely fall. Do we know what others are thinking when they do or say something? No, at least I don't. I don't have omniscience. I have no idea. So we can use logic for this. We can use logic to get to the things we can't see. So take emptiness, for instance. The subject we keep coming back to, right? The subject we're talking about this morning are things that we can't see, that are negatives. They're not positives. They're not nungyur. They're not obvious. So we're trying to prove something which is a negative. And there are two ways to prove negative things. We can divide negative things into those things which we can see if they're here, obvious reality, right? And those that we can't see if they were here. Can you see the emptiness around you? Can you see the emptiness of this pen? So we're talking about kokyu. Can you see the emptiness of the stain on the table? We're talking about Shinto kokyu. So there are proofs for each of those, which we will do after the break. So let's take a 5-minute bio break, stretch break, a drink break, a bathroom break, whatever it is. And we will see you back here at 7 minutes after the hour. Have a good break. We'll start again. So, negative things, right? The subject, the Chu-Chen. Let's go to the middle of the Pacific Ocean. We're in the middle of the night. There's no moon. It's cloudy. It's totally dark. We're in an airplane. And we say, there's no smoke out there, right? Because there's no fire out there. If we could see fire, then we could say there was no smoke out there. It's the middle of the night, it's dark, but what if it was the daytime? Could you have seen it? The thing used as the reason, fire, is normally the cause of smoke, right? The quality we're trying to prove, the assertion that we're trying to prove. We are proving the absence of the result by proving the absence of the cause. The cause would be the fire. So if there's no fire, we're proving that there's no smoke. Smoke is easily seen by normal people. So this is the classical proof. The absence of something you couldn't have seen under normal circumstances. We're proving something negative, that there's no smoke out there. If there had been smoke, could you have seen it? Yeah, you could have seen it. So this is a proof that something is not there that could have been seen had it been there. So take anyone here on this Zoom call, right? Who is not capable of seeing what we call pretas or spirits or hungry ghosts wandering around in this Zoom meeting, right? We can't have a valid perception, a pramana of them where we can see them. We can't see them. We're not at the level that we can see them. So we can't have a correct perception. So a proof of something that we couldn't have seen under normal circumstances anyway. So the first was a proof of something that we could see under normal circumstances. That's not there. The second one is a proof of something that we couldn't have seen under normal circumstances anyway. So this topic, negative things, is very important for the study of emptiness. I don't know about in other countries in the world, but I know here in my country that people have wrong idea of this sexy thing. Oh, it's empty. The Heart Sutra says there's no mind, there's no, there's no sound, there's no taste, there's no touch, there's nothing to see, nothing not to see, right? It sounds really sexy. And it's very cool, but they don't, most people, very, 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 very few people understand what emptiness is. It's not a black hole, right? It's not that we don't see, that we don't hear, that we don't smell. And so, because there are these wrong ideas about emptiness, there have been teachings that will not help you to realize emptiness directly. Like I said, it's a dark hole, or it's a luminous awareness of your mind, or you can see emptiness by totally thinking of nothing, with having no content at all. And a basic problem in these misunderstandings is not being able to realize that emptiness is an absence. It is a negative thing. A negative thing is a chu, a thing that exists. And emptiness is a negative thing which exists. So what is the definition of a negative thing? Let's see who's here. See who I can see. Anybody? Andrish, can you read this? Can you read English?
Это кому вопрос? Мне? Ну да. A negative things is a things which must be perceived by the state of mind that perceives it directly through a process of eliminating directly that which it denies.
Denies. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing
Thank
that
you very
and
much.
reading it for us. So this is the classical definition of a negative thing. Something which must be perceived by a state of mind that perceives it directly through a process of eliminating directly that which it denies. So to see a negative thing, you have to eliminate what it is not. You're excluding that which it is not. That's what that language means. Right? You're excluding it. You're eliminating it. So what is the point of all this? We said it before. Lord Buddha said it is to prove to yourself that you don't know what other people are thinking. Again, let's take me, for example, who judges people. But I shouldn't judge others because I can't read others' minds. So do the test. Use your logic. Use the formula. Does number 1 hold? Is it true that I can't read other people's minds? If it's true that I can't read other people's minds, should I not judge them? Yeah. If I could judge them, then I should be able to read their minds. Right? If I could read their minds, I could judge them. So it's a good proof. Am I going to stop judging people now? No. You will see your own mind doing this. You will see that you're sitting in these teachings and you're thinking about it and you're, maybe getting some insight into how you do it. And the next moment when you're out of class, you're just right back where you were, right? We see our own mind doing this, but we don't have the power to stop it now. That's why we need logic, especially the proof of the absence of something. Lord Buddha said this is one of the most important aspects of logic, proving how much you don't know. Why? So you stop judging others. So how many mental afflictions do we create all day long thinking we know things, making assumptions? I know I make assumptions all the time. And I try and catch myself. Because I don't know. So does that mean if you see somebody who is having their backpack stolen from them that you just sit there going, well, I don't really know what the other person is thinking, so I shouldn't do anything. No, you have to do something, even if you don't know what their motivation is. You have to do something. It's not like, oh, well, that person deserved it or that person needed it. You don't know what's going on here. If you see violence to another person with using your best, highest, clearest wisdom, you have to do something. Are you objecting to the person's state of mind? Can you judge their apparent state of mind? You can judge what they seem to be doing, what is appearing to you. And if it's objectionable to you, then you should do something about it. Do you really know what's going on 100%? No, not unless you're like Lord Buddha. But you can say, you know, I can't be sure what this person is doing, but it looks like it's not okay to me. You can judge the action, but not the person. You remember our teaching of the stick and anger? It's the same thing. You can judge the action, but you have no idea what the person is thinking. Maybe in that backpack, they know that somebody put a bomb or something that is on a timer is going to blow up, and they're trying to protect that person, right? Maybe that person taking the backpack is an FBI agent. We don't know, but we have to act on what we do know with our best wisdom. Though I can't be sure, I know that I need to act. I don't judge the person. Maybe they're, like I said, an FBI agent. Maybe they're an enlightened being. Maybe they're doing something special. I don't know. Whoever they are, right? But in the meantime, I have to stop them from what I can see as a wrong action. We have to act like that. Also, you can think about, who are you protecting? If you're stopping somebody from ripping a backpack off of somebody's back, you're stopping them from creating negative karma. Even if you don't know why they're doing it. This plants the seeds for your future enlightenment so that you can see what others are thinking. If you do this in your morning meditation, when you sit down and you haven't really gotten into your meditation yet, and you're thinking about what so-and-so said or what so-and-so did, if you can do this and realize that you have no idea, half your problems will melt away. If, in fact, you know what people are thinking and know what they want all the time, you can judge them. If not, then you don't judge them. And you know what? You'll be happier for it. So that's one point. The Second point, we're back to emptiness. Of course, the first one has to do with emptiness too. What does it mean if a self-existent thing did exist? What does that mean? Why could it never happen? So this is like a Maha Mudra meditation. What a self-existent person would look like if they existed. It's hard to get it clear what a self-existent thing is. So we need to spend time identifying a self-existent thing. And then spend a little bit of time of canceling everything that appears self-existent to you. The way to look for emptiness is to look for its opposite. Emptiness is the lack of a self-existent thing. So we want to look for what that self-existent thing is. And when we find it's not there, when your pocket comes up empty, then you see its emptiness. So how do we positively describe a negative thing, emptiness? It is a lack of a self-existent thing. You can't look for an absence of a soccer ball. Looking at a self-existent thing, of all types of things, causes you to increase your kelwa, your good spiritual seeds. And also, because of that, you become a kinder person. So this second application is proving emptiness. And it is one of the most important negatives there are. Again, what is it to be a negative? There are two kinds. Negative is gakpa. Everyone say gakpa. Gakpa. This is a general negative. So the first kind is say mayinga. Mayinga. This is a negative in the sense that something is not something. It's an absence where the words imply something else. So what's a good example of that? Sound is a changing thing. What does it imply? It implies that sound is not unchanging. So consider the statement. Sounds are always changing things. This is a negative concept because you can only conceive of it by eliminating something else. You have to eliminate all the instances where sound would be an unchanging thing. Another example is John Smith. This is the classical example. That monk named John Smith, he never eats during the day. That chubby monk, sorry, forgot the very important word there. That chubby monk, John Smith, he never eats during the day. it implies that he must eat at some other time. Another example would be, what you cooked tonight was really good. Are you praising somebody or criticizing them, right? Because it implies that there have been other dinners that were not so good, right? So it seems that all general truths are mayingats, negative things which imply something else. By the way, also all unchanging things are negatives. The second kind of negative thing is a megak. We had a mayingak, and now we have a megak. Say megak. This is always an absence, a simple absence of something that is not present here. This is what we call a non-affirming negative. So what's the biggest negative of all time? Emptiness. The simple absence of a self-existent thing. A thing that doesn't depend on your seeds, on your karma. How do you test this? Test it by the extent which other people cause you to have a mental affliction attack. Also, if you would do something to harm them in some way, but in how you react to them. Are we seeing them as empty at that point? No, we're definitely seeing them as self-existent. So we can test our, not just our understanding, but how much we have integrated it into our lives and how much more we need to work on it by how upset we get with others and things they do or say. By the way, to be a negative thing, you don't have to have a word that contains any kind of like negative wording, like not or no or non, anything like that. So what's the difference between mayingak and megak? Right? A megak is the absence of something. It's always not there. Like, this is not a blue pen. Blue is absent from it, right? It's a white and red pen. Blue is absent from it. So when I say this is not a blue pen, we're also implying that there are blue pens, right? When I take the pen and put it over here and you can no longer see it, the pen is gone. That's a simple absence of the pen. One is the absence of blue. By saying this is not a blue pen, we're implying that there are blue pens, but this is not one of them. When it goes out of the picture and the pen is no longer there, it's a megak. It's gone. So play with these differences. Play with them. One is a negation of things, of a thing's characteristics and qualities. The other is a negation of the very thing itself. And again, what's the biggest absence of all time? Emptiness. So why do we study logic? Again, we shouldn't judge other people. A magog is something not there, like emptiness or empty, right? Like emptiness, tompani. The fact that something is not there. Naka, empty space, is also magog. It's a space that nothing is in. Does it exist? Yes. But it's not occupied. There is nothing in that empty space. So those are two examples. Just to review, Mayinga, something is not something. I shouldn't judge other people because I don't know what they're thinking. John Smith, chubby monk John Smith, doesn't eat during the day. Implies that there's something else going on, right? A magog is a simple absence of something. The pen is not here in my hand anymore. It's a non-affirming negative. So, the gotcha. Buddha said, emptiness is everywhere. Emptiness is a magog. Emptiness is the absence of something. Emptiness is the fact that something ain't here. What's the thing that's not here? What do we call this thing which is not here? A gotcha, a self-existent thing. So now hopefully you can appreciate gotcha a little more, why it's so important. The thing, the job, which we gawk, which we deny. The thing that we negate. The thing which we say is not here. How much does it exist? Zero. It's like a 40-foot, two-headed psychedelic elephant parading through our zoo room at this very moment, smashing chairs, pushing people over, trumpeting noise. It has as much existence now as it ever has, ever will, and ever did. Zero. A self-existent object. The thing which emptiness is empty of. The gotcha. Unfortunately, this gotcha causes every pain in our lives. Even the fact that you're going to die. Even the fact that my body, your body, doesn't change into an angel tomorrow. Why? Because it grasps onto something which is non-existent. Our lives are caused by grasping to something which doesn't exist never did exist, and never will exist. It's, pretty cruel. If it was ice cream or something which we could control ourselves over, that would be okay. We could give it up. But if we're talking about something that we believe in with our whole heart, that things are coming this way, right? We believe in things that never existed, never will exist, and don't exist. They are so powerful and overwhelming. When you think about it, it's like, please, 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 just tell me what to do so I can stop this. What am I doing wrong? Just tell me what I have to do. I can tell you. Geshe Michael can tell you. We have to do the work. It's the pen thing. It's the two husbands in the kitchen thing. Just stop reacting to your world and trying to change things self-existent. Just saying to yourself that, does it work? No, it doesn't. Does it work to go and argue with them? No. We have to wake up and this is why having the direct perception of emptiness is so important. We can think about these things intellectually, but until we have a direct perception, a sema, a valid direct perception, we can't stop it. Remember those 6 steps of Lord Maitreya? A secret is check your old reaction and do the opposite. Maybe every day should be opposite day. Start out with your worst problem. You probably don't know what your worst problem is. Ask your best friend. They'll tell you what it is. We probably see our second and third worst problems. If you want to go for the worst one, figure out what it is and why it's happening to you. Nothing has any nature of its own. Period. It's all coming from the seeds that we've planted and continue to plant. And because it has no nature of its own, it can be anything. So you create the seeds. How do you do that? Keep your vows. Do your 6 times book. Do the opposite. So emptiness is this biggest magog of all time. You can no longer blame anybody else for anything. Is it still right to go and stop the mugger? We talked about it. Yes. Who created them? Who created the person getting mugged? Why do you stop them? Because it's the right thing. Will they stop because you're trying to stop them? Is it the right thing to stop them? Yes. Why? Because it's going to make you an enlightened being. And then you will be able to teach them. So you have to think like that. And you have to think, I need to stop them so they don't plant negative karma. You have to think that way to continue to try and manipulate your world to make it the way you want to without using seeds, it ain't gonna work. Some things will work, some things won't work, right? That proves that it doesn't always work. So the old way we think of how we get things is wrong. It doesn't work. So the main thing is to stop treating others as a two-headed, 40-foot psychedelic elephant rampaging through our Zoom meeting. If you try to continue to chase after the self-existent thing, you will get a heart attack. And before your last breath, you will realize they were never there in the first place. So these are the main applications of logic. Those things which you aren't able to see them first with the eyes of logic. You can see them with your wisdom eye through meditation. An example, you don't know what others are thinking. Prove it to yourself over and over. Chegom it. Do it over and over and over in your meditation. Take Gyelse. She shouldn't judge others. Do the 3 checks. And then while you're doing that, come to this place where it's uncomfortable. You just gotta do it. There's this silence. And during this silence in your mind, you have to strike. Yes, it is true. In that moment, you have an understanding. But because of our habituation, the moment you get up from your meditation cushion, you judge the first person you see. So what do we got to do? We have to do it over and over and over and over again. The pen, the 2 husbands in the kitchen, the rampaging 40-foot psychedelic elephant. That I can't know what someone else is thinking. Why is it wrong to get upset with someone? Why shouldn't I yell at them? Usually, sometimes, they'll shut up if I yell at them. Why shouldn't I have conflict with them? What made them in the first place? It's almost impossible to do anything about it in the heat of the moment. But a few hours later, when you're reviewing your day at the end of it, you can reflect, man, that was a stupid thing to do. You don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to feel guilty. Just look at it for what it was. Regret it. And set a time which you will keep yourself from doing it again. Go through the 4 powers. You can reflect, I created that person. I'm not going to talk to them about being irritating. This is not the karma to change the situation. I should just be a nicer person. So the main applications of logic are to use the logic to understand the things you cannot see, to prove them to yourself, and to prove emptiness. You cannot see so much in your life. So either establish them like emptiness or give them up, like judging others, because you don't know what they're thinking. Both of these will get you out of trouble. So, how would you use a correct reason to prove the absence of something? Something that's extremely important. Let's take, for example, consider this Zoom class full of educated Buddhists, right? It would be improper, we touched on this earlier, for anyone in this room to talk about hungry ghosts or pretas or spirit beings if no one had had a valid perception of them. So the thing that is absent is this proof in the correctness of anyone saying that there are hungry ghosts here. Why? Because no one has seen them. So we can apply this to not mentioning Buddhist ideas to others unless we have a valid perception, a valid understanding about it. How can you get that valid perception? Use logic, clear thinking, right? Meditate on it, debate on it, figure out the correct reasons. So the Galupas, which we are part of that school of Tibetan Buddhism, they love lists. So here we now have two types of correct reasons to prove the absence of something. A correct reason. The first one is a correct reason for proving the absence of something which is difficult for the other person to perceive. The thing we're denying involves something that the other person can't see. So consider a person who is standing in front of me. Can I say that they're a Buddha or not? No, because I haven't had a valid perception of it yet. The second one is a correct reason to prove the absence of something which the other person can perceive, like a pen. Consider the top of that pen, right? Top of the pen. There's no car on top of that pen because there's no Chevy there. Can you perceive that? Yeah, you can perceive it, I can perceive it. So we wouldn't use that as an application, but to prove to ourselves, we use this because we can't perceive a good quality in someone doesn't mean it's not there. What we see is our projection. So the next thing is the quality that we're trying to prove totally contradicts the reason. So consider sound. It's not a changing thing because it's produced. There are three general incorrect logical statements. What is it here? Consider sound. It's not a changing thing because it's produced. Is that a correct reason? It contradicts. The quality contradicts the changing thing. it's not a changing thing, meaning it's an unchanging thing. Because it's produced? Can an unchanging thing be produced? A self-existent, unchanging thing? No. So that's the first contradictory reason. The quality, for the second one, the quality you're trying to prove is not definitely proven by the reason. Consider sound. It's something you can hear because it's a changing thing. So the quality we're trying to prove that it's something you can hear, is it proved by being a changing thing? Can you hear all changing things? The reason, right? Sound, consider sound. The reason, it's a changing thing, and the thing are the same. But it doesn't prove that it's something you can hear. The third kind are inaccurate reasons for particular proof. Consider sound. It's a changing thing because it's sound. They're the same thing. The reason given is inaccurate. So here, sound, because it's sound, doesn't prove anything. And here's a list of more of them. The reason is not existent. He is suffering because he's been stabbed by rabbit's horns. Do rabbit's horns exist? No. So how could he be suffering? 2, consider the horns of a rabbit. Again, it's non-existent. The subject doesn't exist. The quality is also the reason. Sound is a changing thing because it's a changing thing. Right? Doesn't work. The subject is the reason. Sound is a changing thing because it is sound. The subject is the quality to prove. Consider sound. It's sound because it's changing. Doesn't work again. So we have to look at our logic. There are 2 more. Sound is a changing thing because you can see it with your eyes. It doesn't apply to sound. You can't see sound with your eyes. And number 7, part of the reason is incorrect. Trees have minds because at night their leaves curl up and go to sleep. If your debate opponent doubts any one of the elements to your argument, your reason is incorrect. So the final type of bad reason is called bad for the particular school you're debating with. For example, this last one, the Jains, another school, can't say to Buddhists, consider a tree. It has a mind because it dies when you peel the bark off of it. Because Buddhists don't believe that a tree dies. They believe it just dries up. So the point is that we must be logical when defending Buddhist ideas with others. To be able to do that, we need to prove the logic in our own minds. To be able to do that, get out on the debate ground, prove it, use logic, have someone help you, meditate on it, study, cook it. Buddhism does say that you can avoid death and reach diamond world paradises in this life. if you do your practices well and keep your vows correctly. Can you prove that to somebody? You got to prove it to yourself first. Use the logic. Use emptiness. Think about seeds. Look at it. Examine it. And if you don't present Buddhist ideas in a logical way, in a compelling way that others can accept, you have destroyed their chances to become an enlightened being. It will also cause the Dharma to be lost in the world. So you can see how super important it is to not take things on faith, but to really examine them. You are the scientist in your life, in your world. So you have to find common ground with whoever you're talking with. Go back and back if they can't accept what you put out first, till you find some common ground that they can accept logically. The worldview of the Western world is wrong, and we can save people's lives by presenting Buddhism to others logically. Again, I impress on you that you got to do it for yourself first. And so, to do that, meditate 15 minutes a day. Do an analytical meditation on how the mind perceives negative things. Then practice bringing to mind that gotcha when we speak of emptiness. And then think about how this object doesn't exist now, never did exist, and never will exist. And that's the end of class for today. Heavy, heavy classes on logic. It's a deep intellectual exercise. You might want to take a little break from it. Do some sweet lojong practice or something, and then take it down off the shelf and look at it again, because it will change your life. So through spending this time together, may we take what we learned and review it over and over and over again in bite-sized pieces so we don't get overwhelmed. So you don't get a tummy ache from eating too much chocolate. Chi-chedrak, gotchas, emptiness, pramana, sema, logic, clear thinking are tools in your toolbox for you to reach enlightenment for the benefit of every being. May I use them well so I can help first those beings, those people, those animals in my life who are suffering. And then may my capacity grow until I can touch every being in every universe's life. May it be so. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for spending 2 hours of your precious Sunday and have a wonderful week. When somebody starts to irritate you, try to remember that you have no idea what they're thinking. And anyway, they're coming from you. And have a great week. And I'll see you next Saturday. Same place, same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Ven Gyelse.
You're welcome. I hope that I didn't overload you too much with this heavy logic stuff. We get to go on to something lighter next week. But don't just put it on the shelf forever and let it collect dust. It will serve you if you use it. Take care, all of you. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, Vinel.